Martin, maybe you want to introduce yourself and say a couple of words about you?
Of course. I'm Martin. I'm part of the TPM team in Amsterdam. My role at Atlassian is to be a technical partner manager and build relationships with the biggest partners in the ecosystem, gold and platinum partners. So really like the biggest of the biggest that we have.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I mean, from our side, we actually appreciate it because it really helps us. I mean, when we started 10 years ago, Atlassian was much smaller, so you actually knew a lot of people. It was relatively easy to find the right person. But now that you're a 10,000 people company, it's much harder to know who to connect to. And I think that's one of the part where the TPMs are very valuable to us, to be able to find the right people in the organization to talk to, besides the other things they do. I mean, do more than that.
And it's also hard for us sometimes internally when you get to certain size to find the right team. And we realize as well that we want to find the right contacts at the partner side. So when we started doing more projects, especially with migration to cloud, we realized like, hey, we are curious about what Resolution is doing or what other partners are doing. How do we get in touch with them? And we realized we didn't have any point of contact. And then is when we decided to create this TPM role to have a bridge between the partners and Atlassian and work together in cloud apps, migration paths, and basically collaborate.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned that before, and I never really saw it as a two-way communication. Didn't realize it's that valuable to you internally as well. You also mentioned before that you were in customer retention. What dragged you into the ecosystem, into the marketplace?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of stuff. I think when I was looking at retention numbers in the past, I realized that there were certain factors that would make customers more loyal. The main thing was co-ownership, meaning like if the customer was using one or more products, it will be more likely to remain happy and loyal and productive. So if they have Jira, they will be more likely to churn if compared to someone that has Jira and Confluence.
Yeah.
And there was another layer to that. That was the customer that had apps. So looking at retention, I realized an easy way to retain a customer is to make them use more apps.
We like to hear it, obviously.
I love that idea, and we have this hackathon at Atlassian. It's called Ship It. So I teamed up with some people at Atlassian. I had this idea of how we recommend apps to customers, and then basically my job of retaining customers will be done because like if they have apps, the retention rate will go up. So that was my first initial collaboration with people from the marketplace. The team was still quite small. And after that, it was always something that remained in the back of my head. And I remember I saw the job post for a TPM role, and I said to someone that was working marketplace support at the time, hey, I think this is a great role, sounds great, why don't you apply? It seems awesome. And he said, like, actually, I think you will be a better fit than me. And that's why I applied. So
that's a good story. And also I found that with the retention and apps very interesting. I mean, I think it's relatively naturally if you think about it, because it increases the product use and what kind of solutions the customer can have. But I didn't see it in that way. So it was a cool bit of information. In terms of, I think when I talk to a lot of the other app vendors, a lot of them are either have already or implementing analytics and that stuff at the moment, because they all want to know how are people using the app and what can we do to get it more adapted to not be churned as an app. With your experience in customer retention, is there any tips that you have? What to look out for, or how have you analyzed the Atlassian usage?
Yeah, I think the way I used to see it is a matrix, also like different factors on how they are combined. And some of them was like the tenure, so for how many years this customer has been using the app. So a customer that has been using an app for 4 years is less likely to churn than a customer that has been using the app for only 1 year. So start to kind of create these segments and then a matrix that combines both. And I think like something interesting as well for Atlassian will be is how to share that with partners in the future in a more automatic way, directly in the marketplace. So if you're an Atlassian partner, you get the benefit of have like this advanced analytics inside the marketplace where you can self-serve and basically work together with the info we know.
Okay, that's very interesting. How long have you been with Atlassian in total now?
I think it's 8 years almost. So
nearly as long around as we are. Yeah. So I mean, we have obviously seen a lot of the changes from the outside. How do you feel about how has Atlassian changed on the inside?
I think we evolved to be more enterprise focused, and I think now we are looking at a lot of more things that are more related to security and privacy and learning with enterprise customers what they need and how we can help them best. So I think like that was the main difference. I think now we are trying to have a solution for every customer. I think in the past we have a solution that fits all, and now we have many solutions that can fit many. I think that that's the biggest difference.
Okay, that's interesting. And in terms of, I mean, Atlassian is one of the few companies who have a relatively open marketplace and very established marketplace. Yes, I mean, you have other vendors who much more we do it all or our app all, and there's little extensibility. I mean, for us, it was great to be able to come to the marketplace relatively early on. Where do you feel is that going? I mean, is Atlassian going to keep it that way? How important is that to you?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's one of the things that make Atlassian products unique, like having this range of apps that can fill the gaps, where things that Jira cannot do on itself or Confluence. So I think that is huge, and it's something that we will continue to invest. And if you're thinking about the future, I think we are working on this framework that is called Forge, where like an app can be hosted inside the Atlassian infrastructure. And I think this will open like a tiny window of possibility of creating a lot of small custom apps. So if a customer says, hey, we're in cloud and we want an app that does this and that, Forge is easy enough where you can create that app in a very easy way, and you don't need to worry about infrastructure because it's all covered by Atlassian. So I think we will start to see like this niche of micro custom apps that can be quite interesting for many customers.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, I've seen a lot of customers doing some small experiments with that as well. Obviously, Forge is for us as a marketplace vendor interesting too, but for us, it's more the use cases where 100, 1,000 companies can use the app and reuse it. But we've seen customers experimenting with just, let's say, automation on steroids, which goes a little bit beyond what you can do with the in-product automation. Have that as a Forge app as well.
Yeah, and I think we wanted to give the partners as many options as possible, and I think Forge will be great for some things, and maybe Connect will be great for other things. And I think for scale and app complexity, Connect still remains like the best option for a lot of partners. And Connect's apps are like really good. It's not like necessarily Forge apps are better. There's just like two different things, and I think that's the idea, to take not remove one, but like add to the mix.
Okay, cool. In terms of, I mean, for us as marketplace vendors, a lot of people started as a single person company or as a Jira admin, seeing a gap and then running through the motions of building an app, ultimately now running 20, 30 people company. So there was a lot of learning that we had from the outside, which really built character and that stuff. On your side, what do you think as a person, where did you grow most, or what are some of the key things that you learned throughout your career at Atlassian?
I think something that I learned is like the community aspect inside the marketplace and like in our user groups, We have a lot of people that are really nice and very smart, and they are willing to work with each other. So something that I learned is like just trying to hear the other people in the room, because they're usually quite smart, and that's something that it's very good. I think also the fact that you can really be one of these people that have an idea and like make it happen, and that if the idea is good, it's going to work. So I think that is something that I found very interesting and very motivational. And even to the fact that I know that there's a lot of people, like students today, that are learning about Atlassian, and they are going to use these tools in the future when they start working. So I think that's something that I consider quite important and cool about the Atlassian and the growth that we've seen, especially in the last 10 years.
Yeah, very true. That's cool. Is there any question I forgot to ask? Is there anything I should have asked, or anything else you want to share?
No, I would be more interesting to know as well from your perspective. What do you think is the main difference that you see in the Atlassian today and the Atlassian 10 years ago when you started?
Ooh, I think I could talk about an hour about that question. I mean, there's obviously a tremendous difference in sheer size of company. Yeah. It was small. You could have all small relationships. If there was a big event, you all fit in a much smaller space. Now we at Team 23. It's a huge expo. It's a huge event. So the whole size and scale has changed. But I also find that amazing that there's while that has grown tremendously, there's still a lot of commitment to the same values. Yeah. What we as partners sometimes struggle with is in the earlier days, people had been around for a long time in Atlassian, so they were breathing and living that, and also knew how important the ecosystem is. Yeah. Sometimes with the people who recently joined, it's much harder because they're not in that. They come from other companies. They are not necessarily in that ecosystem mode. So sometimes it feels harder today, and that's where the TPMs really had. Yeah. It feels harder today to remind a lot of the teams, hey, I have an API for that. Yeah. We want to extend that. There's a whole ecosystem where thousands of jobs depend on essentially extending your product, which is a two-way street. Yeah, by extending Jira or extending Confluence, we help your customers or our common customers to use the product better and solve their issues. Yeah. But at the same time, you need to allow us that access. You need to think when you build something new, it's cool, but if you can't extend it, it's only halfway there. So I think that is not a constant struggle, but a constant thing that we feel we have to keep reminding people about. And I think if you talk to your team, you see it probably a lot of your conversations are of the same style, of reminding the product teams, hey, let's make sure we tick all the boxes, or check with the vendors, is that impacting them, and so on.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. And we have like this type of request, a few for each partner. So I think like sometimes it's like all different partners need different APIs and different extension points. So I think that our role as TPMs is to try to figure out, okay, which are the apps that need these APIs? What are the customers that could benefit from this? And that's a good point. Maybe the other thing that I wanted to ask, and it's a very hot topic now, but what do you think about AI? And I mean, I saw some presentations today about a few marketplace apps using ChatGPT. Do you think there is a future ideas that you have, or do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it from. I mean, first of all, AI in general, it's there's certainly a level that is scary because you don't know exactly where it leads and what it will change. Yeah. But ultimately, we didn't know that about the internet when it started either. Yeah. I do think that AI is going to change a lot of things. Yeah. But I also don't think it's going to take over the world and ruin it. Yeah. It's I would probably more compare it to it probably is going to change our lives as much as the internet has changed our life. So I think it's going to be tremendously big and fundamental. And I also think there aren't going to be many products in 3, 4, 5 years' time who aren't going to be using some kind of AI or machine learning model. So yes, we are absolutely actively looking at not so much build a separate product on AI, but where can we use AI much more in the products that we have. We have an app that does translation of issues. Yeah. So we can think of features to not just translate things, but also can you suggest a better answer, or can you suggest the answer in the first place, and then, or I've written an answer, can you improve my answer and then translate it? Those kind of things, or to analyze cases better. We have another app is out of office, so which reassigns issues to people based on rules that are predefined. So what if the system could, you have to do less predefining, and the system could be smarter about directing those things automatically, which is absolutely possible. So I think the great thing about things like ChatGPT or what Azure does with their things, but also what AWS now does with access to different models, is that it's much easier to consume machine learning models without having to go through all the cost and of building and training them. And I think that's really sort of the point why we're looking at it at this point in time, because we get to the point where it's cost effective to take a model, apply some custom training to, for example, either customer data or generally the use cases around Jira or Confluence, and then use them. While that would have been relatively cost prohibitive maybe 12 months ago on the good models. So I think it's going to have a tremendous impact, but I'm a lot more positive than negative about it.
That's pretty interesting. We are playing around inside Atlassian. We have our own sandbox, and something that is very cool that we realize is if there is a customer that is in doubt and you type in something like, tell me an Atlassian cloud app that is able to do a chart like this or a translation like that, and from a platinum partner, like AI would be able to suggest a number of apps and give a little brief. So I wonder if it's going to be kind of the end of UI in the world, where you just like do a request and then you get an answer back. But
I think this kind of conversational interface works well for a lot of things, but not for everything. So I think yes, it will remove some UI use cases and make them even more accessible from the mobile or voice assistants and those kind of things. But I don't think it's the end of something like UI. There's still a lot of things that are better done on even today on a PC in a nice structured way rather than something else.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, what about you? Any other questions that you may have?
No, thank you for your time. I think it's also now that customers are coming in. So it's probably gonna be busy here soon. So I really thank you for your time and appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a nice one.
Bye.